Okay, thank you very much for that fantastic introduction. It's so nice to be back in these conferences. It's been so long since we've been able to be in person, and I just want to say thank you to AWS. I feel safe here today. We've got proof of vaccination. We've got our masks on, so thank you very much for making it safe today. And I really look forward to sharing with you our story. I remember sitting in the audience a couple years ago, just before we embarked on our cloud migration, and listening to people that had just gone through either a similar experience or they were well along on their journey, and I was able to learn so much from what their experiences were. And so I hope that today there's something that I say that helps you out with your journey, wherever that may be. And actually, I think I need the clicker. There it is. There we go. So my name is Adam Cusson. I am the Chief Technology Officer at the MSRB. I've been with the MSRB for 3 years now, and before joining the MSRB, I've been in commercial software. I've been in startups. I was a 12th employee in a startup. That was a lot of fun, a lot of hard work. You learn a lot from startups. I've also been in large companies. I was with Novell. Some of you in the audience might be Novell certified, NetWare certified. I was also with NetIQ, where I focused on data center software and business service management. And then just before joining the MSRB, I was with Oracle. And at Oracle, I was responsible for the technology, the engineering, quality, and the DevOps and the project management for a SaaS product called Eloqua. It was a B2B marketing solution, and that was a ton of fun. So you may be wondering, Adam, if you've been in commercial software your entire career, why did you join the MSRB? Well, there's really a couple reasons. Number one, when I started to learn about the MSRB, I looked at its mission, and I thought I had an opportunity to make a difference to people's daily quality of life, and so that really kind of spoke to me. And then secondly, when I got to meet the executive team, and I learned about their vision, and they saw technology as the catalyst, as the driver, and as the enabler for the future of financial market regulation. And I had an opportunity to come in and lead a digital transformation in a $4 trillion market. And that was very exciting for me. And today, I'm here to speak with you about how to accelerate business momentum during a cloud migration. So who is the MSRB? We regulate a financial market that you probably don't spend much time thinking about. This is the $4 trillion municipal securities market. This is where your home state, your local governments, they're going to come to finance their infrastructure projects. And more than 50,000 different states and local governments every year issue close to $500 billion, $417 billion in securities for these types of infrastructure projects. When you think about things like Hurricane Ida, or you think about the wildfires that are happening on the West Coast, and all of that devastation that is left behind, how are they going to rebuild that infrastructure? They're going to come to this market. And this is the market that the MSRB regulates. When you think about getting around your state, public transportation. When you think about getting a good education, public schools. Or when you think about staying healthy, the last couple years, we've all probably been impacted by COVID. And so you probably know somebody that was in a public hospital. Those are all financed through this market. And we see that technology is central to the future of financial market regulation. And as such, we have more than half, 50% of our staff is focused on technology and data. So today, I'm here to speak with you about momentum, generating momentum, maintaining momentum, and accelerating momentum. So, when I speak about momentum, we just completed a 100%, 0 to 100% in the cloud enterprise migration. We unplugged those data centers. And it took us 18 months, and it cost $7.5 million. And key to our success was this concept of momentum. So if there's one thing that you take away from today's lightning talk, it should be momentum. And specifically, these three things around momentum are generating momentum, building momentum, understanding the why, then maintaining momentum. This is a very long project. How do we maintain momentum throughout this massive migration? And then lastly, accelerating into the future to meet your business needs. So the first one, generating momentum, building momentum, understanding the why. This is quite possibly the most important part of a migration. We spent 6 months and $1 million in this phase, and it was time well spent. This happens well before you even think about touching one of your servers. I have a question for the audience, a couple questions for the audience. Do you have aging systems that are becoming harder and harder for you to patch and keep current? Security breaches. We hear about these villains in the news that want to come in and attack our systems. Is it becoming harder and harder for you to patch them, patch those vulnerabilities because you're on legacy systems? Is your staff, is your workforce focused on yesterday's technology when you want them focused on today's or tomorrow's innovation? I'll bet many of you probably are in that situation, because that's exactly where we were when we started with this. And so what we had to do is we had to take all those questions and all of those challenges, and we had to look at our vision too. Our vision was that technology is at the center of financial market regulation. And we've got all these challenges, and we said, what are we going to do here? So we took all of that information, we put it down on a piece of paper, and we developed a business case. And we looked at these, and we analyzed these, and we thought about it, and we said, what about the cloud? Can the cloud help us to achieve our vision and solve these problems? And we said, yes, absolutely. We must go to the cloud. So we knew the cloud. So then we said, okay, well, how much is it going to cost? Can we afford this? It's going to be so expensive for us to move to the cloud. And we looked at that and we said, well, actually, if we eliminate costly hardware data center refreshes, it's going to pay for itself. Okay, that sounds great. We're going to move to the cloud and we're going to save some money. But do we stop there? The answer was no. That's just step one. We want to get to the cloud, and then we want to modernize our systems to allow us to achieve our vision. So once we had this and we put this down on a piece of paper, we could then gain alignment, and alignment was absolutely critical. We had board alignment, we had executive team alignment, and most importantly, we had staff alignment. Those people that were going to be executing on this migration. And there were times throughout that this was going to go sideways. We were going to have challenges throughout this migration. And if I went up to Johnny and I said, hey, Johnny, we're running late, I need you to work this weekend, Johnny would say, absolutely, because he knew that this was key to the future success of the MSRB. And so with this business case, we had a few key outcomes. Number one, we knew what our vision was, technology at the center of market regulation. Number two, we need to go to the cloud. Which cloud? We picked AWS. We knew AWS was the right cloud for us. We also knew that we wanted to get to the cloud, and then we were going to embark on a systems modernization after that. And then lastly, we knew that if we could accomplish this enterprise migration, we would have confidence into the next steps of our digital transformation. So I talked about generating momentum, building that momentum. Now let me talk about how we maintain that momentum. The first part was, now that we knew the why and we were going to the cloud, we had to get the right people together to focus on this migration. So we thought about this and we said, can we do this with ourselves? Let's look internally at our staff. Do we have the capacity to do this ourselves? And we said, well, we're focusing on caring and feeding of these old systems, on these security, issues that we have. We also have business commitments. We have to meet these business commitments. Can we stop that? Can we just stop that and focus on this migration? No, absolutely not. You've got to do both. We had to do both at the exact same time. So at that point, we knew we had to look externally. We had to add additional capacity. We wanted to find some experts in migrations to help us with this journey. And so, because we had defined the how, and we were going to do a lift and shift to the cloud and then modernize, when we went out to find the right people, we could ask them to scope their work specifically to that lift and shift. And that allowed us to find the right partners to bring in and help us with this. So now we've got the right people together. Now we knew this is going to be a very long project. We're going to face a lot of challenges along the way. So how are we going to address those challenges and come to the right decisions? So we defined our rules of engagement. These were our guiding principles. And whenever we ran into an issue, we would go back to these guiding principles. And if there was something that we were trying to do that didn't align with our guiding principles, we simply wouldn't do it. Now, we wanted to keep moving. And so with this big project, we knew that we couldn't plan out everything at once. It would just take so long for us to try to plan out the entire migration at once. So we wanted to get started. So because we hadn't planned out everything, we knew that we were going to have to adjust our approach as we went forward. So let me give you an example of that. The example is, when we first thought about doing a lift and shift, we figured we would just pick up our servers exactly as is and put them in the cloud. We would take them exactly as is and just put them. AWS supported everything that we needed to be able to do that. So we thought that was going to be our approach. We peeled that onion a little bit and we looked at that. And what we found is that approach would not work for us. We didn't want to fundamentally change our systems. That was out of scope. But what we did want to do is improve around the edges wherever we could. And so we looked at Amazon machine images. We had this proliferation of operating systems, different patch levels, different versions, and we didn't want to pick that up and take that with us. So we looked at these Amazon machine images and we said, we're going to go ahead and use hardened, standard Amazon machine images. And as a result of that, we knew there were some downstream impacts to that. It was a little bit more work, took a little bit more time, but at the end, we had a more secure solution, and we unwound some of the complexity that we had as well. And now, as we were moving forward, we would run into some of these issues. We would run into a number of issues as we were moving forward. And what a lot of people would tend to do is really try to plan every single thing out on paper, and that would slow us down. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to keep that momentum going. When we tried to plan everything out, we would slow down the momentum. So we set up some sandboxes and some lower environments, and we said, instead of just putting it on paper, go test it out. And we were able to get an immediate answer to our questions just by testing it out on those lower environments. So the last one that I want to talk about here in terms of maintaining momentum, and this is probably the most fun, is about celebrating your successes, both the small ones and the big ones. And so as an example of how we celebrated our successes and had fun, we defined success such that when we moved to the cloud, if nobody knew, that was successful. They were not going to encounter all new functionality. So when we planned out the migration, we took our entire estate, 100% of it, and we split it into 7 different waves. And each wave was made up of all of the dependent systems on each other. And on that Friday, and they would happen on subsequent weekends, 7 different weekends. And on that Friday, we would start the migration. And on Monday, if nobody knew it happened, that was success. And we were going to celebrate that. And the way that we celebrate it is we would all get together on Wednesday following a successful Monday wave, and we would celebrate together. And the way we would do it, I want to introduce you to the MSRB custom cowbell. We took these cowbells and we made these custom cowbells and we distributed them to staff so that we could all celebrate together. And we would get together and we would ring that cowbell with success. And it was so much fun and everybody was saying, I need more cowbell. It was a great time. You have to have fun. People want to have fun. So that was one of the ways that we had fun, and it was great. So guiding principles. I talked about guiding principles and how important they were to us during this migration. And I want to give you an example of how we were able to mitigate our top risk throughout this migration by using these guiding principles. So we are a huge Oracle shop, right? And Oracle's, look, I'm an ex-Oracle guy. It's a great database. It's fantastic, but it's also our #1 cost driver. And so we knew going into this migration that we would really have to take care of that Oracle migration. If we didn't get it right, either our systems wouldn't work or it would be too expensive and it would blow out our business case. And so we said, oh, okay, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to take care of Oracle? So we looked at this and we said, well, do we have to take it with us? Right? There's databases up in the cloud. Do we have to take it with us? And so we said, okay, well, how do we make that decision? Guiding principles. So we looked at the guiding principles. And I will point your attention to the top left guiding principle right there. Minimal viable code changes. We had made the decision that we were not going to fundamentally change our applications during this migration. It was too risky and out of scope. So it's coming with us. We're taking Oracle to the cloud with us. That's how we made that decision. We said, okay, it's coming with us. How are we going to do it? What are we going to do? How are we going to move this thing? So we went back to our guiding principles and we said, well, look at this one down here on the bottom right. Increase awareness of consumption and costs. We said, aha, we need to look at our Oracle systems on-prem and know exactly how they're functioning. So we looked at them. We looked at the CPU. We looked at the memory. We looked at the disk space. We looked at the peaks. We looked at exactly how that Oracle system was working. And then what we were able to do is, because we knew that, we could map that to the cloud, and we could pick the appropriate server classes in the cloud. We could look at the cost and say, how much is that going to cost? Because we couldn't blow out. We had to preserve our business case economics. So we needed to make sure that it was cost effective and that it would work appropriately. So that is specifically how we were able to mitigate our top risk by leaning on our guiding principles and having a successful migration with Oracle to the cloud. Now I get to talk about the fun part. And this is why I joined the MSRB. This is that digital transformation that I was talking about earlier. This is our systems modernization. This is where we are going to be able to fundamentally rebuild our systems to take advantage of everything that the cloud offers. And we've chopped a lot of wood to get here. It's been a lot of hard work. We had to build a business case, understand why, what's our vision, what are we trying to achieve. We identified that the cloud would help us to get us there, so we immediately started on an enterprise migration, which we completed on time and on budget. And now we are embarking on this full systems modernization. And this is where we get to really rationalize our system, look at our customer pain points, and improve them on top of everything that the cloud offers. One other example that I'd like to give to you about how the cloud really accelerated our momentum. So I talked about this migration, and we're embarking on the systems modernization, but we had something that we didn't think was going to happen during this migration, and that was COVID. COVID came in and had an impact. And COVID came in, and it impacted us, it impacted businesses, it impacted the world. It shut down the world. And so we had an opportunity here with COVID. The one thing that issuers have to do, those states and those local governments have to do, is they have to tell the market about things that are happening both good and bad. And the investors are selecting the municipal bonds that they want to invest in. But one of the challenges that investors had is that they couldn't quickly see how COVID was impacting their individual muni bonds. And so we looked at this as an opportunity. And we said, okay, what can we do? And we looked at our on-prem systems, and we said, there's not much that we can really do here from an on-prem perspective. We'd have to set up some servers, and it would be very cost prohibitive. So we said, what can we do in the cloud? How can we help solve this problem in the cloud? And so what we did is we took a whole bunch, and this was happening at the exact same time the migration was happening. We took a whole bunch of unstructured data, and we brought that together. And then we took artificial intelligence, and we took machine learning, and we took other services from AWS. We layered that on top of this unstructured data. And what we found is that we could then provide structure on top of that. And from that structure, we could then gain insights into that. And those insights could be related to how COVID was impacting the market. And we were able to take that information and put it into a COVID-19 report publicly available on our website for our investors to be able to take a look at, thereby achieving one of our top parts of our mission, which is the protection of investors. We didn't think we would be able to achieve this until well along in the systems modernization, and we got a taste of the power of the cloud and how that could impact our mission and our stakeholders. So we have a lot of confidence now. We have just completed this massive enterprise migration. We've seen the power and the capabilities of the cloud, and that is what is going to inform us and accelerate us into the future, where we look at our systems and we ultimately put technology at the center of financial market regulation. So wrapping up here, I talked about 3 things today. I talked about generating momentum, maintaining momentum, and accelerating momentum. So the first one, in terms of generating momentum, this is where we began with the end in mind. We created our business case, we looked at where we wanted to be at the very end, and we looked at our challenges, and we determined that the cloud was a part of that, and we worked backwards from that end vision. And we built that business case and had alignment, and that's how we generated and built that momentum. Then we maintained momentum by defining, getting the right people together, then defining those rules of engagement across the team members, and defining our guiding principles to help us navigate our toughest challenges. And we focused on our people. We knew we were going to be taking our people with us into this systems modernization. And so we wanted to upskill them. And so we had customized learning journeys for each individual on staff to give them the cloud skills to help us in the future. And then the most fun way that we maintained momentum was by celebrating successes. And I showed you the cowbell, and I'm going to give you one other example of how we had fun and celebrated our successes. Our CEO, who does not have your typical technology background experience, said, you know what, the cloud is so important to the future of the MSRB that I am going to get my certification. I'm going to get Cloud Practitioner certification. And he threw down the gauntlet, and he said, anybody that beats me to my certification, I'm going to give you $100. And boy, did the floodgates open. We had certification after certification after certification coming in. We spent more than $10,000 in these certification payouts. And I think the CFO got a little bit nervous. And I think she might have gone to Mark and said, hey, Mark, are you really going to do this? Because it's getting a little bit expensive here. And then Mark said, oh, I guess, practice test, practice test, practice test. And then he did it. He passed his exam, and it was so exciting. And we all got together, and we had this huge pizza party, and we said, look how smart we are. We've got our cloud skills, and our CEO's got our back, and this is so much fun, and technology is the future. It was so much fun, and it was engaging, and so you just have to have fun along the way. And then lastly, the only constant is change. And so we want to learn from our past and learn from all of the lessons that we gained throughout this cloud migration and the business case to really help accelerate us into the future, to put technology at the center of financial market regulation. Thank you very much. This has been fantastic, and if anybody would like to sync up after this, I'll be hanging out in the hallway for the next 20, 30 minutes. You've got plenty of time before the fireside chat, and I'd be happy to go into any more detail or just meet up with you. So thank you very much. And lastly, don't forget to take the survey as well. So thanks.